Welcome back to the wildlands, off-grid in central Portugal, where we've had some ridiculous heatwave weather, 47 degrees centigrade. We've had fires around us and we've run out of water. So let me show you the state of play of our water and how we do off-grid drought gardening in Portugal for our food forest. Enjoy tonight's episode. First, with walking cam on, let's go down the land and have a look at the well, and I can show you how empty the well is, and we'll also have a look at last year and see whether we're doing better or not as well, excuse the pun, as last year. So before we go down the land, let me just show you the reservoir, which is probably got one more filling's worth of water for the IBCs. The water's full of algae, as you can see, but it's also become a haven for wildlife. Had loads and loads of dragonflies coming to lay their eggs and mate, and it's not lasted as long as we thought. Nevertheless, we've got 8,000 litres or so left, I'm guessing, based on what I used this morning. So the biggest question is, we've got a massive amount of rain forecast today, so we're hoping that the forecast is for once correct and that we get lots of rain. We're supposed to have a couple of days of really torrential rain, which would be lovely, because although it won't help our well, it will take some months for the well to fill back up from the aquifer and for the water levels to rise. But obviously rain all helps, and it's water in the garden direct, so fingers crossed for some rain. We've also got 4,000 litres of IBCs on the back of the shade house, so if it does rain today, we should be able to start filling those up, or might even fill them up all the way to the top, which will be, as they say, a godsend, because that's an extra 4,000 litres for the food forest. So we're going to walk downhill with walking cam now. I'll nearly fall down the hill there, so we're going to slide down the hill with walking cam. So you can see Rose's cabin there on the left, which we spent a few hours yesterday covering in tarp so that she's waterproof until she has her outside cladding fitted in about a month. So we're just coming into the olive grove, which has got a very poor crop of olives this year, which is surprising considering all the rain we had earlier in the year. So as a recap, it hasn't rained since May, bar a few spits and spots a couple of days ago, so we are desperate for a lot of rain. So let's have a quick look at last year and look back and see where we were at with the well. And if you recall, we did a lot of cleaning in partly a desperate attempt to get more water once we'd run out, but last year we ran out of water at least month and a half before this year, so good result and great for Digger Dave helping us dig our big reservoir. So I think sadly we have a problem in that we've actually run out of water even though the well is not empty, so it's all a bit depressing.
We've probably got enough left in the IBCs now for 2 more days of watering sparingly, and then it's all gone. And when it's all gone, there's nowhere else to get water from, so everything's going to die, which is very sad. The trees will probably be the last to die because they've got nice deep roots. But yeah, we'll lose all of our vegetables and salads and corn and flowers. That's very sad. There's less than a foot of water in the bottom of our well now, and at the bottom there's sediment, silt, plants and so on. So the next thing we're going to try is cleaning out the well, which would be fun because people have got to go down in it on a ladder, and we have no idea what might be at the bottom of the well. Today is a very, very sad day because today is the day that we have to say goodbye to most of our vegetables.
So what's been going on in the well, Missy?
Not a lot. I mean, it's all going to be sad, isn't it? This has got teeny beans on. Turns out that 10,000 litres is not enough storage to get you through the month of August. Oh, look at that. That's pathetic.
So that's the pump run, and that's about as much as we can take out as we suck air into the green pipe. So there's probably about a foot in the middle where it's very muddy, and that's what we've got to get down and clear out. And all this overgrown plants and brackens around the outside and dangling in the water, gonna have to yank that all out as well. Gonna be fun. Ladder is in. And a braver man than me is going down. Not something you've done before when you lived in a house, gone down a well, eh?
No, never been in a well in my life. It's interesting, it's a bit scary really. It flicked in my face and it does not smell good.
Glamour job.
Oh no, it stinks.
Off-grid living.
Ah.
The things you have to do off-grid that you've never done before.
So we're pumping out the water so we can get closer to the silt and the mud at the bottom so that we can carry on removing that. So far we've taken quite a bit out, but there's a hell of a lot more. It goes a long, long way.
As you know, we've been trying really hard to get water out of our well, to get it cleaned, to try and maximise the amount of space in there that's full of water so we can pump it up to sort the garden out. And the water table has just dropped so far that we're not actually able to get more than maybe 100 litres every 3 days out of it, which is not enough. We have about 2, maybe 3,000 litres left in our IBCs, and we will keep taking out the little bits that we can from the well, but until it rains we want to make that water stretch as far as possible. And what that means is that instead of trying to water everything and keep it all just about alive, limping along, and then having it all die in a couple of weeks, we're going to cull everything that's not perennial, basically. All of the trees, we've got fruit trees and nut trees, we're going to keep watering them little bit. They don't need lots and they don't need it every day, but the vegetables, they're all going to go. So the beans and the cabbages and the tomatoes and everything, because we can just sow more. We can sow more next year. It'll be fine. We might even be able to sow some of the cabbages and things like that to keep us going through the winter. We might be able to sow them in the autumn once we've had some rain. But for now, I'm going to take you around the garden while I choose who's going to die today. It's so sad.
See just how dry the land is. We've got a lot of brush which we need to clear once we're allowed to be using the strimmer. I'm going to collect a lot of that up and we can compost some of it and have a burn for some of it. A hot walk, even though the temperature's a lot cooler today. I think it's about 34 at the moment. It's worth mentioning yet again that we had 47 degrees centigrade last week. God, that was toasty and brain frying. So I'm back down at the well. I just wanted to come down and show you how much water we don't have in the well, although all our pump woes from last year were fixed. So that's the state of the well. if you have a look at the brass fitting on the bottom of the green inlet pipe, you remember from earlier that's the pipe that runs to the pump. The brass fitting has a valve on the end so that when the pump stops, the water stays in the pipe. So you can see that the brass fitting is at the level of the water. So essentially we've run out of water, although there is more water in the well than when we cleaned it out last year. So we are in a plus situation. We probably could drain out 300 or 400 litres a day by using a longer green pipe, but we've left the water as is because we've got newts and frogs and beetles and terrapins in the pond, and we don't want to upset them as the level is already very low. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we've been praying for rain, which was due and did come, and boy did the heavens open. It absolutely poured down for a couple of days. And again, if you remember from last year, the rain doesn't really affect our well for quite some time. So it'll probably be 6 to 8 weeks before we see any noticeable difference in the well filling back up once the rainwater percolates through the ground, down eventually into the aquifers below. But at the moment, despite having several inches of rain, when we look in the garden, the topsoil is wet, and then if you dig down a couple of inches in, it's bone dry and dusty. But it's good news, so we made it through. So let's go back down to the food forest, and we're now in the beginning of September, so we're about 6 weeks ahead of the footage you saw earlier where Missy was telling us about the end of last year's garden. So you'll also remember that we rebuilt our garden following what we learnt from last year, putting swales and berms in, and I'm now going to take you on a quick tour of the flowers and some of the vegetables, etc., that are growing very, very well, and then hand you over to Missy.
forest, we've done so much better than we did last year. Everything is still looking lush and green. We've got a few things looking a little bit wilty, but that's to be expected for the end of August. I'm just really pleased. I think we've done so well. What's made it so much easier this year compared to last year is having all of our irrigation set up. So the fact that you were able to turn on a tap over here and have it spring, and turn on a tap over there and have 2/3 of the garden, I would say, automatically watered, and then a few watering cans here and there. That's definitely helped us out, and it's meant a lot less heavy lugging of the watering cans. The watering cans has worked fine up the top there where we've got all of our pots and things, where you can do spot watering and work out how much water each plant needs, so that's really good. We haven't had to cut down any plants this year, whereas last year when we ran out of water we had to take out most of the plants, so that when we did water the trees and the other perennials that we wanted to really survive, we had to prioritize them. We didn't want the water to be taken up by any of the plants, so they all had to come out the ground. And this time last year the garden, it was completely empty and really quite sad, and everything was sort of yellow and dry. And this year it's green and fabulous. We're still getting harvests, we're getting kale and tomatoes and melons and herbs. I spent a couple of hours this morning picking things to preserve, so that if when the rain comes they don't go mushy. Again, last year I left my chili peppers a little bit too long on the plant and they went mushy in the rain, which was sad. And this year I have my own chili powder, which is fabulous. I think for next year I'm going to improve by taking out some of the sprayers, because they look like a great idea in spring, but if you've got a sprayer here doing this area and then you've got a plant that grows up here, the spray hits it and then nothing over there gets water. Obvious when you say it, but it didn't seem obvious to us in spring, so I will swap those out for drippers where the water just goes straight into the ground and soaks it. We need to change around some of the pipes, because some of the pipes, you get one pipe coming from an IBC and that splits into 2 or 3 different areas and you have a tap for each, but that then means you have to keep going and changing the taps, and it would be better to have a hose for each from the IBC. I think what I could do with a little bit more ground cover next year, which we tried this year, but some of the plants didn't make it. I don't think we've done at all badly for year one though. I think we've got a fair amount of ground cover. Maybe need a little bit more in the way of mulching. And again, because we're only in year 1 of our food forest, I wouldn't expect it to be fully thriving until sort of year 5 really, especially since we're starting no dig beds, and they get better with time because every year you just put another layer of compost on, and that's feeding your soil and adding nutrients and water retentive ability. So yeah, I have high hopes for us going forwards.
So, to summarise, we're in a much better position than we were last summer. We haven't quite run out of water, and we've made it through the worst part of the summer and into the beginning of autumn, and we still have some water left. So I think with a combination of the water that we have left and also the rains that we'll get on and off through September and October, we should be well on our way to successful growing into the autumn and through to winter with the water that we have. The learning curve is that if this year had been hotter for longer and drier for longer before the heat, we would have run out of water at least a few weeks ago. So we still don't quite have enough water. So the small pond next to the large pond that currently is not lined, we're going to line that and fill that up. Going to need to get some more IBCs for our new market garden, and we're going to have to come up with some additional storage for the new market garden as well. So no rest for the wicked on the wildlands, and always a challenge off grid. So thanks very much for watching, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe so that you can follow along with our journey and not miss an episode as we strive for self-sustainability and as we grow more and more using permaculture principles to try and feed the whole family and have spare to trade and barter with other people in our valley and our community. So exciting times ahead. If you've got any questions or any suggestions, do leave us a comment and give us a like. And again, thanks to everyone that supports us through Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, and we will see you very soon with another video. Ciao.